Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to a ranking of every single Legend of Spyro level from A New Beginning to Dawn of the Dragon, excluding the handheld versions and any other port of the mainline console games, because they most likely would be at the bottom simply. For those who know me, you know I'm a huge fan of Spyro the Dragon, but more specifically, the Legend of Spyro games made by Chrome Studios. These games basically acted as the reboot of the Spyro franchise after Hero's Tale, starting off a brand new trilogy of games that were darker and more serious in tone compared to the previous entries. Hell, they even had Elijah Wood voicing Spyro and Gary Oldman as Ignitus, which is probably where most of the budget went.
If I could leave with one of Spyro's powers, what could it be? But the old standby, the ability to fly, you know, that's a big deal. Breathing fire, okay, that could be, I mean, I could really run into some trouble with that. You know, can you lessen the amount of fire that you're breathing? What if you only intend to, like, I don't know, light a candle, for instance, but then you light up your couch? You know, that could be really problematic. Ice could be good, but then I could see that being extremely dangerous as well. I mean, all of these things I think you'd have to learn how to regulate, because you could freeze yourself, you could, I don't know, I think there's a lot of, flying's the safest. I'll go with flying.
Although these games were deeply flawed, or at least the first two in my opinion, they have developed a cult following of their own and more people seem to be starting to appreciate these entries, which is always nice to see. Eternal Night was actually my first ever video game I ever played, and I've probably played these games around 10 times all the way through each in my lifetime. I love each and every one of them, so I decided let's rank all of the levels, excluding a few, which I'll get to in a bit, from worst to best. I'm going to be going off of pure enjoyment and what it offers in terms of gameplay to rank these, with of course art styles and level designs and the general vibe the level gives you, factoring in as well of course. But I'll explain as we go. Just to preface this though, I will not be including the dojo levels of New Beginning or the dream sequences in Eternal Night. These only serve as mere tutorials and it'd be a bit hard to rank them since they're all similar and they're not really levels per se. They basically just act as tutorials for each of the breaths you get as you progress through. Secondly, any boss levels are going to be integrated into the level that comes before them. So for example, Convexity from New Beginning is going to be included with Concurrent Skies and Gaul's Fight will be integrated into Mountain Fortress. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can actually include the boss levels without making them their own levels per se, because if I did that, most of the bosses would be at the bottom because the levels in themselves aren't interesting. So I decided to just combine the level that came before them into one, so it's like all one big package. If you disagree with that, let me know in the comments, but I think that's just a good way to do it so I don't exclude those levels. With all the ground rules set in place, let's begin. What is the worst level in the entire Legend of Spyro trilogy? Number 23, Pirate Fleet and Falmouth Arena from the Eternal Night. Oh dear god, where do I even start with Pirate Fleet and Falmouth Arena? This might be controversial, I really don't know the general consensus of the majority of these levels including this one, but oh my god, I have to rant. Pirate Fleet and Falmouth Arena are the worst levels in the Legend of Spyro trilogy. To begin, we've been kidnapped by these scavengers and are forced to participate in these arena matches for their entertainment. The three main bosses here are the Blundertails, the Ravage Rider, and the Executioner. The Blundertails are pretty simple, you simply use your horn attack to stun them and they're pretty easy to kill. But the true bullshittery comes with the Ravage Rider. This big ship shark thing gave me permanent PTSD when I first fought it as a kid. For its first phase, it will simply float around in a circle and you have to slowly but surely whittle down its health until it decides to pick up the pace and starts going fucking apeshit. It'll rapidly change directions, shoot cannonballs and spew fire at every single angle. And not only that, but the arena itself will shoot cannonballs at you. Before I continue, I think I should clarify an issue with Eternal Night especially, and that is its stun lock mechanic. Most games when you get hit will stun you, that's pretty common practice, but they usually will give you a brief moment of clarity to bounce back to prevent an instant death from being stun locked. But not this game! You can do everything in your might. If there's multiple fast hitting enemies on screen, you best pray they take their time, because there is no post-hit invincibility. They will continuously damage you until you die, and there is nothing you can do about it but watch Spyro roll back into his grave. Okay, with that out of the way, back to Ravage Rider. The few bits of magic energy you get can be used to deplete a single health bar, but you still need to be lucky enough to not be stun locked by this piece of shit. And finally we have the Executioner, which is actually just a reskin of the Ice King from A New Beginning. In fact, the Ravage Rider is also just a reskin of Steam from Munitions Forge, and the Blundertails are just a reskin of the Buffalo Beetles from the same level. Man, I really feel bad for the developers of this game. And finally we are on to the main level, Pirate Fleet. I don't even know where to begin. I honestly don't even know where to begin. I might be alone in saying this, but I genuinely cannot stand this level. It is so obnoxiously long and boring. All you're doing is going from ship to ship, killing the exact same enemies over and over and over and over and over again, with the most infuriating stun lock mechanic I've ever seen in my life. I love the Eternal Night. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite video games of all time. But I absolutely hate its stun lock mechanic, because this game will just kick you down and make you its bitch. And this level is pretty much proof of that. And the boss is no better either. He's literally just a massive scavenger. The only personality he has is his two pirate buddies on his shoulder which do the talking, and he just goes blah 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 blah. His boss is not interesting. He has like 2 attacks, and his final boss phase is just the exact same boss as before, but in a big circle with a few grunts. It's so boring. This level as well also has some of the worst platforming I've ever done. Eternal Night is a New Beginning. They're okay for platforming, but the controls just do not really lend themselves to be great, because there's no shadow underneath Spyro to judge where you're gonna land. So it's very, very difficult to jump on these really tiny ass platforms. And honestly, if you play Pirate Fleet, you know. You know what it's like. It's obnoxiously long. There's nothing interesting about it. It just goes on for far too long. It's boring. You're finding the exact same enemies over and over and over again. There's no interesting story beats apart from Cinder getting kidnapped, but that's it. That's at the beginning of the level, and that's it. And I hate it. I physically recoil every time I have to think about playing this level when I replay Eternal Night. Okay, rant over. Let's move on to the next level before I have a hernia. Number 22, Swamp, from A New Beginning. Next up we have Swamp. It's just the tutorial level of A New Beginning, and it just introduces you to the controls simply. We see in this level that Sparx and Spyro are more akin to brothers now than the other games where he was just kind of a sidekick. There isn't much to say here, to be honest. It's a bit of an ugly looking level, but it's explained later on why everything looks the way it does. Plus it has a beautiful intro theme beforehand leading into the level. So yeah, not much to say here. It's mostly just the beginning level of A New Beginning, ironically. And yeah, it's fine. It's a level.
It's just that your mother and I knew this day would come.
What day?
The day when we would have to tell you the truth.
I'm not your dad. Honey, what are you doing? I'm telling him once and for all, right? What do you mean? I'm not your dad. You were adopted. What? No, what? What? No. Look at your hair, and then look at mine.
Number 21, The Dragon Temple, A New Beginning. Dragon Temple. This level takes place immediately after the swamp, and it introduces us to Gnidus, voiced by Gary Oldman. This is still kinda continuing the tutorial level and getting you ready to fight the enemies you're going to be fighting for the rest of the game, the apes. We help Gnidus get through some doors via cave systems and push up statues into place, and yeah, again, that's about it. It's just not much to talk about with these levels. It's just they're just fairly tutorial levels to get used to the game, and yeah, that's it really. Number 20, Night Temple, the Eternal Night. The Night Temple. So this level once again serves as the tutorial level inside the Dragon Temple. But since Eternal Night's gameplay is literally identical to A New Beginning, they don't really spend a lot of time training you, and this level just throws you into the thick of it basically. Eternal Night is a pretty challenging game even today, and this first level really shows that. These hound enemies are the bane of my existence. They stun lock me every goddamn time, and they're everywhere. One thing I do enjoy though is the overall tone of this level, as it really sets the mood. Eternal Night, for its shortcomings, really makes up for it in terms of art style and music. Right off the bat, you can already tell this is going to be a dark game, and the first level being the Dragon Temple going under attack during the night really helps in that. It's a neat first level, albeit maybe being a bit too hard for a first level.
Cinder, what are you doing out here? It's dangerous.
You shouldn't have followed me, Spyro.
That's good enough for me. Let's go. See ya.
Please, don't make this harder for me than it already is.
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm leaving, Spyro. I don't belong here. After all I've done, all I've put you through, I can't stay.
Cinder, nobody blames you for what happened.
Huh, I do. Speak for yourself.
Sparks.
No, Sparks is right. And every day that goes by, I'm reminded of it. Spyro, your place is here. Your destiny is here. But mine is somewhere out there for me to find.
Cinder, I don't want you to go.
Goodbye, Spyro.
Number 19, Tall Plains, from A New Beginning. Oh, Tall Plains, oh god, where do I even begin with Tall Plains? If we looked up mediocre in the dictionary, a picture of Tall Plains would show up. It's an overly long, boring level that just goes on, and on, and on, and that fucking music. It also introduces these rock enemies that take so long to kill. You knock them down and they become immune, and then you have to wait for them to slowly get back up, knock them down again, and wait even more. And then the entire time you're just being shot on by this alpaca dude who's such an asshole. He constantly berates you through the entire level despite you saving his ass. And once again, it just goes on, and fucking on. Until we finally reach the end and face this stone sentinel guy. He's not hard either. Hell, he's probably the easiest boss in the game. What a letdown to a horrible level. God, yeah, I never look forward to playing this one. The environment is just grass with a bit of yellow thrown in at the end. The enemies aren't interesting. It goes on for far too long. And it's boring. Well, what else can I say? It's just extremely boring. And also, you unlock the ice ability, which in this game isn't all that useful. It's really not that useful. I never use ice in this game. Number 18, Twilight Falls, from Dawn of the Dragon. Twilight Falls, our first level from Dawn of the Dragon. For those who know this level, you might be shocked by this selection, and rightfully so, because Twilight Falls is a beautiful level with an amazing soundtrack, but its shortcomings is that, well, it's like way too short. Like for real, you could probably beat this level in 5 minutes if you sped through it and didn't pick up any collectibles whatsoever. It also introduces my least favorite enemy in this game, the Hero Goblins. They are such tanky enemies that really have annoying attacks and a shield that you can't break simply. It just takes forever to kill this guy unless you've maxed out your breaths, which at this point you obviously haven't. It's a shame. It's a beautiful level, but it's just simply way too short. I feel like if this level was akin to something like the Valley of Avalon, which I'll talk about later, then this level would probably be like a 10 out of 10. So there's nothing particularly bad about the level itself and the content in it. It's just way too short. It's shorter than the intro level to this game. Number 17, Dante's Frieza, from A New Beginning. Dante's Frieza, so this is the first major level of A New Beginning and actually starts with a flying sequence, the only instance in this game apart from Munitions Forge. And for good reason, because apart from the chill music, by God is this sequence boring, because you literally just sit there and move Spyro around a little avoiding enemies. Also, I don't know if it was just me, but I would always try and land a fireball on this turtle to see if I could kill it. And I still do it to this day. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I keep doing this every time I play this game. After that, we finally reach Dante's Frieza. It's an okay level. It's mostly a corridor level that introduces a few new mechanics like the cannonballs, but that's about it. I like the general vibe of the place. It's like an abandoned stronghold with the soldiers being frozen in time and turned into zombie-like ghouls. I dig it. It feels like it lasts a bit too long, but it's nowhere near as boring as Tall Plains. Good God, and it also has a pretty decent first boss fight at the end of it with the Ice King. I like that you can actually replenish your health and magic, unlike some other bosses. And also in the DS version of this game, you can actually see Crash Bandicoot being roasted over a fireplace, which is oddly kinda dark for a kid's game. I'm not. It's kind of dark. I'm not gonna lie. Number 16, the Ancient Grove from Eternal Night. The Ancient Grove, our first major level of Eternal Night, ignited us to send us off on a quest to find the tree we keep seeing in our dreams, and we end up in the forests of the Ancient Grove. To start off, I really love the atmosphere of this place. It's kind of got that fairy tale vibe of trolls and goblins and mushrooms and that vibrant purple river that runs through the level. Top notch stuff. What I don't like though is the corridor aspect of this level. There isn't a lot of variety, it's just run in a straight line, try not to get stunlocked, and do not even get me started on these bugs. Who thought this was a good idea? Who thought this was a good and fun idea? I mean, who looked at this and thought, yes, what a great gameplay feature. These little twats will hook onto Spyro and prevent you from running or jumping, and they don't even hurt you. Their entire purpose is just to make your life a misery, and to let enemies stunlock you, and that's the bottom line.
Because the fucking nerd said so.
Well, sure, if you ignore all the evil beasts and visions of doom and eternal darkness, which sounds lovely, by the way. Oh, and the fact that we now get to frolic through the magical creepy forest in search of some stupid tree? What's not to love?
You're psyched. Let's go.
Number 15, the Grove Underground from Eternal Night. So, the Grove Underground. Here we have the horrid but slightly better sequel, the Grove Underground, where we get introduced to the Scavengers, a brand new enemy faction. They're just the exact same apes we've been fighting all game and last game, but with a pirate theme. Yay! Anyways, I've actually ranked this one high because it actually has some interesting gameplay elements. We unlock the ice breath, and with this we can actually create these ice platforms to jump on across rivers. It's nothing groundbreaking, but hey, it's new. It can actually get kinda tense when you're hopping between them trying to dodge enemy attacks before the one below you melts. It still maintains that vibe from Ancient Grove as well, and then we hit the jellyfish. These transparent floating jellyfish are a platformer fans' worst dream. You can barely judge where the surface is on these things, and unlike a lot of platformers, this game doesn't have that shadow underneath you so you can judge where you're going to land. And don't even get me started on Arboric. Good lord, is this the worst boss in the series? I think this might be the worst boss in the series. Basically, the gimmick is that you're going to have to individually attack each part of his body with the fireballs enough to make them catch on fire. Seems simple enough until you realize, on your first time playing this, the game doesn't tell you that. So you can be mindlessly throwing fireballs at this big bastard and be genuinely confused on why you aren't even making a dent in himself. And if you're not fast enough, he regenerates. So, not only do you have to know to light each individual sector on fire, you have to do it all with one health bar and be fast as fuck, and not only that, but he has a second phase and you don't regenerate your health. So you don't even get a single red gem to refill your fucking health bar. You just gotta brute force it. You just gotta hunker down, put on your fucking A game, and blast some Metallica trying to beat this Groot wannabe. You know what? No, I'm bumping this up just after Pirate Fleet. This level enrages me so much with its awful enemy variety, unfair jumps, and ridiculous boss mechanics. Okay, I gotta calm down. Okay, let's move on to the levels that I actually kind of enjoy and not play this one. Number 14, the Destroyer from Dawn of the Dragon. So, the Destroyer. For context, the Destroyer was an ancient monster basically that Malibu resurrects, and if this creature crawls into a certain volcano, it will spell the end of the world. Pretty deep for a Spyro game, I love it. So through destroying a dam, we trap the monster, and the entire level takes place on the Destroyer itself. You're flying around looking for these dark magic crystals to damage parts of it to unlock new areas, and it's genuinely awe-inspiring flying around this massive creature with many little islands scattered on it. It then ends with us literally diving into the center of this monster and destroying its heart, ending in an intense lava chase scene through which we escape through its mouth. man, is it really cool. My only issue with this level is that trying to find some of these crystals takes a really long time. Sometimes you need arrow cones to spring you up to specific places, but sometimes it just feels like these don't work. I've played this level so many times, but I can still never remember where every location is. Maybe I'm just forgetful, maybe I just suck, I don't know. It's one thing I always dread when I revisit this one, but it's still really good though. The exploration of the level itself is really cool, and the sheer thought that you're actually just playing on a massive monster. It's such a cool environment, and I can't recall if any other games have done that before. They probably have. There probably is other games where you play on like a creature itself. But man, it was cool. I really enjoyed this level. Number 13, the White Isles from the Eternal Night. So, the White Isles. After the depressing brown colour scheme of the pirate fleet, we are met with the beautiful crystal-covered caves of the White Isles. A rather short level, but it's a sweet one nonetheless. The atmosphere, the music, the visuals, it's all so very calming, and I feel so relaxed when I'm playing this level and just listening to the lovely choir in the background. It even has some rather fun platforming. The first two Legends games don't have the best platforming controls in general, but here it's generally kind of fun. It has some reused enemies of course, but they're given a reskin to make them feel really mystical. And I don't know, I feel like this level would be far down on a lot of people's lists, but I just like it. It's got a nice vibe, what can I say? Number 12, the Catacombs from Dawn of the Dragon. So, the Catacombs, following the ending of Eternal Night with Spyro, Cinder and Sparks are encased in crystal, they are later released and forced to fight the Golem in the Catacombs. Now this is how you start off your game, a massive towering behemoth of an enemy that stalks you throughout the entire level. It's just a really fun level in general. It acts as the tutorial level, but not to the point where it feels handholdy. You're told the basic controls and that's it basically, off you go. It also introduces Hunter to the universe, which is neat. And hey, it automatically unlocks all the breath elements to begin with. They aren't time gated until later in the game. It has some breathtaking visuals and some really fun platforming, and it really feels like an evolution to the Spyro franchise. All in all, it's a great starting level, and there's even an elite boss you can face if you want. It's completely optional, but it gives you a slight early game boost if you're skilled enough. Or if you just keep spamming the grab move like I do. Number 11, Munitions Forge from A New Beginning. Next up we have Munitions Forge, taking place on a volcanic island where you are tasked with rescuing the Earth Dragon Pterodor. I really love the visuals of this level. It's a typical lava level, but I love the steampunk-esque vibe to it. And the end boss is something new at least. I mostly like this level due to Moliere. I don't even know why, I just think his character is really funny. And he even appears again in Eternal Night. There's actually a lot of different sequences in this level. Before the main boss, you have this train chase scene. It's nothing special, it's mostly just on rails, but I absolutely love the name of the train itself. It's called the fucking Caboose. And then you have the main boss itself. If you remember the Ravage Rider fight, this was its predecessor basically. You just run around in a circle, wait till he crashes, hit him a few times, rinse and repeat until it's done. This is then followed by another sequence similar to the pre-Dante's Frieza flight level, except you're flying away from Cinder. So it's probably the most varied level in the entire game, but there is one more level that I slightly like more than this, and that just happens to be our next one. Number 10, Concurrent Skies and Convexity from A New Beginning. Concurrent Skies is the final level in A New Beginning, and it tasks us with rescuing Ignitus after his fight with Cinder, when she kidnaps him to create the final crystal to bring back Malifaux. Now this yet again is another Corridor-esque level to begin with not as much unique gimmicks either, but what puts this above the rest is how foreboding and gothic the entire level is. The theme of electricity coursing throughout the skies and the vibrant blue crystals littering the landscape and the gothic architecture of Cinder's fortress itself all adds to a great build up to Cinder herself. Now of course, like every other level, it reuses the apes just with a different reskin, but it's arguably, at least the best reskin looking. These guys look more threatening for one, and they introduce a new enemy called the Conduits. These long-legged electric spiders that scan around for Spyro, They're annoying to kill, but I really dig their designs. The ascent to the top of Cinder's Fortress really feels like a final boss build-up, and then we finally see her.
If only it were that easy, little one.
So big.
Time you learned how complicated life can be.
Run! Spyro! Save yourself!
Not this time. This time I fight.
Bring it.
She has two phases to her fight. The first initial phase is pretty easy, just a few swipes here and there, and then we get to the final level, Convexity. Cinder is on the verge of bringing back Malibu, and we have our last platforming segment.
My master returns.
We're too late.
Persistent little fellow, aren't you? This is where it really ends.
Bring it.
No mercy this time.
I can't watch this.
The fight itself isn't all that special. She has a few new moves here and there, but she's not hard at all. It's more worth it for the build-up from the cutscenes and the final strike, which I'll just play here.
It's time to unleash the true dragon within you.
It's not without its faults. Cinder herself isn't hard at all, and the level has a lot of corridors, and it reuses the Ice King boss fight again. And once again, we're just fighting apes again, but I don't know, man, the vibe it gives me, it just, I really love this level. I really do love this level, and the final attack against Cinder is just, chef's kiss. I love Gothic architecture, what can I say? Number 9, The Dam from Dawn of the Dragon. The Dam is the predecessor level to the Destroyer, where Spyro and Cinder have to destroy a dam. And that's pretty much it. What I really enjoy about this level though is the somewhat puzzle aspect of it, trying to find out how to pull these two wooden things out with your lamp slowing you down. If you recall the Catacombs, these lamps basically hinder you and cause you to fly low, so trying to work out the optimal route to get these lamps across, I really like it. There's a sense of scale as you're climbing this massive wall, even though realistically I don't really know why they don't just fly to the top. I don't know, something to do with air currents. It's a video game, I know. Scaling this thing and some of the new enemies you encounter, I really enjoy. It's confusing. There's nothing really stand out in this level. I just always look forward to when I'm playing Dawn of the Dragon. It's really nothing special, and it's kind of like a filler level, but it's okay. It's fine. It's better than the other ones. Number 8, The Floating Islands from Dawn of the Dragon. Floating Islands from Dawn of the Dragon, so just before our final fight with Malibu, we have the Floating Islands. This level is one of the best when it comes to utilising the free flight mechanic, as it has you flying between multiple different islands to find these torches to open up a door. The islands themselves are made up of the Dragon City buildings that are being suspended in the air from the updrafts of the volcano below you. It's strikingly beautiful and feels like a bit of levity before your final fight with Malibu. The calm before the storm, as they say. And the music too really sells that. Take a listen. All in all, it's a solid level. It utilises the main mechanic of Dawn of the Dragon and has some really tough fights to go along with it near the end. Yeah, it's utterly fantastic. It's a really strikingly beautiful level before the final boss. Number 7, the Ruins of Warfang from Dawn of the Dragon. So, the Ruins of Warfang, man, this level is fantastic. This level tasks us to find 4 different crystals to slot into these open statues to open the main door to let the other Dragon Guardians in. So you have 4 different pathways to choose from. Well, technically 2, because when you complete one, a new path will open on that side. Anyways, this level is probably the most puzzle-oriented level in the entire trilogy. It's not entirely clear sometimes how to solve them, like this one where you have to use fear to turn this like dial thing. Like, who would know how to do that? That's just random luck if you used fear on that the first time around. The sidetrack as well is really haunting in this massive cave that has lava flowing through it, and the amount of collectibles that are pretty well hidden only adds to it. All in all, it's one of my favourites. I always look forward to this level when I'm playing, and it's really fun with 2 players as well. Number 6, the Burned Lands, Dawn of the Dragon. The Burned Lands from Dawn of the Dragon, now this is where shit really hits the fan. After possibly one of the best cutscenes in the game where, unfortunately, Ignitus dies, which I'll play now.
Ignitus, let's turn back. There's got to be another way.
Spyro, Cinder, I have never done right by either of you. Allow me to do this.
What are you saying?
My path ends here, but yours lies beyond this. Draw strength from each other and follow your heart. It will never fail you. Now go. Go.
Ignitus! No!
Spyro, stop! It's too late. You can't do anything for him now.
No, he isn't gone.
Spyro, let it go.
No.
No! Spyro, don't!
You can't stop.
You're right. Only you can do that. Please, Spyro, don't do this. We have to go on. He wanted us to.
It wasn't supposed to be like this. I feel so alone.
You're not alone.
The Burned Lands is truly the beginning of the end. Whereas previous levels were luscious in their environments with nature and life, the Burned Lands is a desolate wasteland that once used to be a sector of Warfang before Malibu returned and uprooted it to become this. As Spyro and Cinder make their way through, there's tons of ambushes and really challenging fights. Probably the hardest level in the entire trilogy, to be honest, even harder than the Eternal Night. These massive purple grunts hit like a truck and can be found everywhere throughout the level. It's really a wake-up call level. If you haven't been leveling up enough and finding the green and red crystals to increase your life and magic, you're gonna have a really hard time in this level. I also really love the brief interactions between Cinder and Spyro, obviously because Cinder was under control by Malibu like her entire life and like was basically a slave. It's understandable why she would be a bit apprehensive to go up and face him again. So as you go further into the level, you have to have Spyro basically reassure. It's really sweet, and I really wish the game had more of these.
He's up there somewhere, isn't he? I don't know if I can go through with this.
I don't know either. But we have to. You said it yourself. If we don't, then everything we fought for, everything we've lost, it's all been for nothing.
All right then, I'll go. But only because I want to get rid of this chain.
Come on. The air is too thick down here with all this ash. There's probably an updraft near the volcano.
My only gripe with this level is that sometimes it can feel really, really empty, which I get is the point, because it's a desolate wasteland, but it can be a bit tad too empty sometimes, and it's really ugly to look at after a while, which I completely get, that's the vibe they're going for. I'm not judging the level based off of that, but it's just so sometimes when you're traveling around and getting a bit confused on where to go, it's like, oh my god, all I'm seeing is grey. And there isn't a whole lot of collectibles, especially when you compare it to like stuff like Valley of Avalon and some of the other levels. There's not a lot. There's an elite enemy you can find, which is a ball ache to kill. He's probably the hardest elite enemy in the game. But it's still a really solid end game level, and I really look forward to playing it every time I play Dawn of the Dragon, even though it's incredibly difficult. Really difficult unless you've leveled up. Level 5, the Celestial Caves from Eternal Night. This takes place after the White Isles, where we find 4 different rooms all linked to our different breath elements. Basically, before we meet the Chronicler, we have to prove ourselves worthy, and these 4 rooms basically put our skills on display. Each one has us using our elements to solve puzzles, and there isn't a ton of combat, which is a breath of fresh air, after the hell we went through on Pirate's Fleet, and that music. Oh my god, the music! I can't state enough how this is one of the most underrated soundtracks in all of gaming. No joke, just have a listen. And it even ends with a boss fight. It's just Cinder. Yeah, it's literally just Cinder again, who changes elements every now and then. Oh, and also the Ice King is reused 4 times. Yeah, 1 for each element. So that means in total, they have reused the Ice King boss fight a total of 6 times. Holy shit, okay. And no, I have to mention one thing, because I genuinely hate it about this level. It's trivial, but these things. These little spider shits that you have to ground pound in order to go forward. Oh my god, their hitbox is so precise and you barely have any time to actually time yourself to hit them. And as a kid, this part stumped me because I had no idea what you even had to do to proceed, because the game doesn't really tell you. If I'm recalling, I'm going off script with this, I don't know. Does it tell you? I mean, when I'm editing this, I'll probably put a big thing up saying, oh yes, the game does tell you to ground pound, but I don't know. But apart from that, I do love this level generally. It's a very eerie vibe, and meeting the Chronicler and learning the origins of Malifaux is really still awesome to this day. Probably one of my favourite cutscenes in the trilogy. Number 4, Mountain Fortress and the Gaul boss fight from the Eternal Night. So, the Mountain Fortress from Eternal Night, the last level in the game, has us scaling the Well of Souls, the mountain that has been built up the entire game, even in the loading screen. After Spyro rejects the Chronicler's offer to stay with him and ride out the storm, Spyro goes on to face Gaul, the Ape King. This level is strikingly beautiful with the snowfall and the vibrant greens that course throughout it. This arguably though is the hardest level in the game, and it has some brutal combat encounters and basically what amounts to gauntlets with very little checkpoints throughout. But I like that. It's a final level, it should be tough. And unlike Concurrent Skies, it's not entirely Corridor-esque. There's a lot of verticality and platforming involved as you scale this massive mountain, and to end off we have our final battle with Gaul.
Where are we?
The better question is, what's that smell?
The purple whelpling. It's fitting that you should be here tonight, as we bear witness to the dawn of a new age, and the failure of your pathetic race of dragons.
I wouldn't miss it, Gaul.
Then please, have a seat. Foolish dragon, you are no match.
I've made it this far, haven't I?
Yes, you've been quite elusive. Had I but known that all it would take would be your miserable amity for Cinder.
Psst. What's amity?
How tragic, really. That she should be the one to destroy you.
Ah! The nightmare never ends!
You don't need to do this, Cinder.
Just like old times, huh, Spyro? Same as last time. Line me up with a staff.
This isn't over. Don't touch him. The whelpling is mine.
arguably probably the least interesting main villain, as he doesn't really interact with Spyro at all until now, but his boss fight is really intimidating. He's massive with these two giant swords that basically one-shot you if you get hit. And you have to utilize your dragon time, which I'm only realizing now I failed to mention. Eternal Night has this feature where you can slow down time by pressing R1, at least on the PS2. So you use this when you get stuck, and it's not particularly hard. Also, I remember once hearing a theory if you broke all these pots you dealt more damage, but I don't think that's true. Probably just a hoax, to be honest. And his final phase has Spyro turn into Dark Spyro. And it's a bit of a cakewalk from there. It's really hard to die here, but man, the final blow you deal against him is so badass. I'm just gonna play it.
What are you waiting for, dragon? Finish me! Coward.
Number 3, Malibu from Dawn of the Dragon. So I'm kind of breaking my rules here. I know I said I'd include every boss as part of the preceding level, but I'm making the only exception here as, come on, it's the final boss of the entire trilogy, and it has 3 phases, so shut up. Since A New Beginning, you've literally only seen glimpses of this guy and told his origin story in Eternal Night, but here he is. Voiced by Mark Hamill, in fact. Yeah, Luke Skywalker himself voices this guy. I honestly can't do him justice by talking about him, so I'll just show a clip.
Listen to him, Spyro. Don't listen to anything he says.
So weary. Allow me to make you more comfortable. That's better, isn't it? The least I can do for you, Cinder. After all, you've done so much for me.
You used her.
I used her, she used you. What does it matter, really?
What does he mean?
What? He doesn't know. What's it mean in the dark?
Tell me what?
How she lured you to Noah's souls. How she tricked you into fleeing.
You're lying.
I find it peculiar how you chosen to do things. I can assure you, it was you who freed me, Spyro, and you who brought me back. And we have sinned little fat for that.
Cinder? Is it true?
No. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Oh, I think you do. But perhaps you
Cinder! Cinder! No!
I should have warned you. You are alone here, young dragon. You have always been alone. Still, here you are, trying so desperately to save little Israel. Refusing to accept the role of the purple dragon. I should have been told I was the first Archon, but I assure you, there have been many. It had been meant to be of our predecessors to resurrect the destroyer regardless of the demon to bring about the great cleansing. This is the true nature of our kind. Your destiny is to destroy the
No! I don't believe that!
Of course you don't. But you will fulfill your destiny nonetheless. In my time, I was stopped, prevented from completing my quest. But you have carried the flame, become your own luminous, and soon the world will be destroyed along with it.
No. Because you've left me nothing to fight for.
There's always something.
So is prepare to die.
And now begins our fight. Malibu has every single power that we have as we fly above the volcano, dodging projectiles and just beating the absolute living shit out of this guy.
Now's our chance.
But then, the destroyer reaches the volcano, and as we're plummeting towards the earth, Malibu unleashes even more powers as the ground below heats up from the atmosphere, and then we use Dragon Time to smush Malibu into the ground, until Phase 3, when we're literally plummeting towards the center of the earth in a desperate attempt to kill him into the volcano. And yeah, I'm just gonna let the rest of the cutscene play. I can't do it justice. What an amazing final boss to end off this trilogy. Malibu is a truly intimidating villain, even if his boss fight is not even particularly hard, especially if you've leveled up everything. But just the sheer like visuals and the sheer like tone of the fight is just, it's amazing. It's kind of like a Dark Souls fight in my opinion. That's the vibe it gives off to me, just without the difficulty obviously. But I just let the cutscene play.
Just hang on.
Number 2. The Valley of Avalon from Dawn of the Dragon. If you had to show someone what an open world Spyro game would be like, this is the level you would choose. On a different day, this would be my favourite level in the entire trilogy. It was really hard to pick between these two final levels, and to be honest, they're both equally as good and just show off how special the Legend of Spyro series is to me. After being knocked out by the Cheetah Tribe, we are taken to the Valley of Avalon, a luscious green open world valley with so much to explore. There are pockets of enemies everywhere to fight, the music is amazing, the sights are breathtaking, and it's just nice, man. This level just makes you feel good. You start off the level with defending the village, and as your task to find a missing village member who has broken his leg, you have to go and find a raft. But in order to do that, we have to find the pressure lamps again, but they're locked. So in order to unlock them, we have to find a key that is being kept by a hermit that lives in the canyon. So by scaling walls and hopping from wall to wall, we find him, and he actually recognizes Cinder as the Black Dragon. So yeah, he remembers when Cinder was evil, and it's really tense cutscene. I really like it. And as well, we're actually introduced to the apes again from A New Beginning and Eternal Night. So after Gaul's defeat, they were basically turned into ghouls to forever walk in the darkness as spirits by Malibu. That is so cool and wraps up that loose end from Eternal Night so well. So basically, because Gaul failed that hard, he literally banished the entire ape race to like be these like spirits, and it's I only realized, like, when you were a kid, I didn't really realize they were the same apes from like Eternal Night in the beginning. So when I learned as an adult, it was just so cool to me. Maybe I was just a stupid kid. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. All in all, this level is simply fantastic. There's so much stuff to explore, an elite enemy to find, and a really fun mechanic with pulling the raft by using the tether that's placed on Spyro and Cinder. 10 out of 10 simply. This is how you do a modern Spyro level. It's so breathtakingly beautiful, And even with people that I know don't even like this the Legend of Spyro trilogy, even they like this level, so that should tell you everything. If the haters of this trilogy like this level, then yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's just so good. And finally, at our number 1 spot, we have Dragon City and the Attack of the Golem. Okay, so as I'm recording this right now, I realize I've actually made a mistake, as Attack of the Golem is actually a completely separate level, and I completely forgot, and I've already recorded all of the other entries with their numbers, and I'm too lazy to go back and change it, so yeah, I'm just combining these into 2, it's fine. The Attack of the Golem level isn't really... It's mostly just, it's a boss fight with a little bit of level beforehand. It's not really a level, it's mostly just a corridor, so it's fine, just shut up. Best level goes to Dragon City and the Golem. Dragon City is after Valley of Avalon, as Spyro, Cinder, Sparks, and Hunter travel to see the city is under siege by Malibu's army. And admittedly, this first section is kind of boring. We have to save this building from being on fire by going back and forth between this fountain, and it does take a while and it's quite tedious. But after that, this is where the fun begins. And as the final line of defense against his army, we have to protect this cannon that is firing at the siege towers that are coming towards us. You really have to multitask in this level, and it's intense. You have to repair the cannon if it takes too many shots, whilst also focusing on the towers themselves when they get near to destroy them, whilst also making sure you reload the cannon with the switch all at the same time. So you're constantly going back and forth, and it's just so cool. It really feels like a war is going on, and I love that. And after this section, the army gets desperate and tries to breach the main door to the city. Now, this section has you trying to light up these torches to lock the center, whilst enemies are pounding at the door to get in, to which you have to spam your control to close, basically. There's just so much going on, and especially with 2 players. Yeah, if I didn't mention, there's actually a 2-player option in Dawn of the Dragon, and this level is so much fun with a friend as you're diving back and forth between the different objectives. But it doesn't end there. As a last-ditch attempt, remember the golem that stalked you in the Catacombs? Well, it's back.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a big monster wants to kill me.
It's in the earth beneath us! All of you, run! Run!
And as you fight your way to this behemoth, it's slowly destroying the entire city, as Spyro and Cinder make one last attempt to kill this thing. The boss itself isn't entirely difficult or complex, but it makes up for it with its scale. I love how massive this thing is, and the music! Oh, the music! I know this might be a very controversial number 1 spot, but I don't care. Dragon City is my favorite level in the entire Legend of Spyro trilogy. It's just so intense and really sells the army of Malibu as they're approaching the city, and it's for like, it's just something you wouldn't expect from a Spyro game first time playing. Like when you start from the first game, Spyro the Dragon on PS1 to this, it's like the divide is like so big, which I get people don't like obviously, but to me, it's so badass, and I always look forward to this level when I'm playing it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you agree with my list or if you don't, and what levels you would switch around then. I know there's a big divide in quality between Dawn of the Dragon and the other 2 games, so I try my best to balance them out, even if Dawn of the Dragon obviously came out on top, which was no surprise. But I think I did a decent job with balancing each level between ranking them. I didn't want to just put all of the, you know, Dawn of the Dragon levels above all the other ones, because I thought that would be a bit unfair. So I tried my best to balance them to the best of my ability along with the boss levels. So let me know how you thought of it. If you want any more of these ranking videos, do let me know. It's actually quite fun making this. And yeah, have a lovely day, guys, and yeah, peace.
The world is breaking apart, but I think I can stop it. I think I'm meant to.
Then I'm with you.